All right, we're continuing what we began actually last week, and this is a speech. Ooh, what's that? A speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe. And here, let's see. When was this speech? 1 second. There's a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1988. 1988. And some of it was from also 64. Okay, the idea is, okay, what is the idea the Rebbe wants to get to? Moshiach and the temple. It says that the Moshiach and the temple are going to come as a result of the Jews taking the Lulov and Etrog and honoring the holiday of Sukkot, not doing work on the holiday of Sukkot, treating Sukkot something like Shabbat, right? It's forbidden to drive your car, forbidden to this. And the merit of that is going to be the Holy Temple and the name of the Mashiach. This is the name of the Mashiach. Okay, so the Rebbe explains what's the connection between the two of them. I mean, Mashiach is going to be a person like Moses. It is going to make earth-shaking changes in all humanity, in all history. There's never been anything even, I guess, vaguely there has been. There are Jews going out of Egypt. I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think that there's one history book in the world, in any university, anything that really accurately or even semi-accurately describes the Jews leaving Egypt and receiving the Torah as a historical event. And not just as a historical event, as the basis of the most important historical event that ever occurred. And next, the creation of the world, which that for sure is not included in any history book. When the Jews got out of Egypt, I mean, without any doubt, if it's true, right? If it's true, and there's a lot of evidence that it's true. I mean, maybe the best evidence of all is that Jews have been believing it. Millions of Jews for thousands of years. Now, despite all difficulties, here the Jews, God took them out of Egypt. Amazing thing. God took them out of Egypt, and it was all by means of Moses. Moses did the whole business. If it wasn't for Moses, the Jews would have never left Egypt. If it wasn't for Moses, the Jews wouldn't even stayed out of Egypt. They wanted to go back all the time. If it wasn't for Moses, the Jews wouldn't have received the Torah. They wouldn't have received the Torah. If it wasn't for Moses, the Jews wouldn't even exist at all. After they received the Torah, they worshipped this golden calf, some of them passively, some of them actively. And God said, I'll wipe them all out. That's all. There wouldn't be any Jews. We'd all be relatives of Moses. God said, I'll leave you, Moses. You'll make a new Jewish people. The whole thing was Moses. Everything was Moses. But there's never been such a thing. No religion, no group, nationality, whatever you want to call it, even claims such a thing, that God personally, actively created them. He formed them. He put them all together into Egypt or whatever country it is, and that's how they got their identity, and they all got out at one big mass, and they all received this book, and they all saw God. Who says something like that? Even the religions that claim to replace Judaism, it's just too fantastic. It's the most important event that ever occurred in the world, proving without a doubt the existence of God, proving that even if you see God, you still have free choice. They'll worship the golden calf, right? What God is, how God is, most important. And that was all by Moses. Well, Mashiach is going to cause the same changes, but infinitely more so, and to all mankind, and in a permanent way. But how is this going to come? By means of Lulav and Etrog. I mean, that makes sense. That's what it says. That's what the Midrash says. By the Lulav and the Etrog, that we will merit to Mashiach. and also keeping the holiday of Sukkot. Then we'll merit the holy temple. Okay, so how is this going to be? So the Rebbe explained something. Said that Lulav and Etrog has something in it that no other commandment has. No other commandment in Judaism has. All of the other commandments, even the holiday of Sukkot, whatever, you take something physical, all the commandments, you take something physical and you use it to serve God. Use it to serve God. But before you use it, it has no sign of being godly. What is a sign of being godly? Is surrender, humility, unity, harmony. Everything else that you use, naturally, you make tefillin from a cow's hide. A cow's hide is a cow's hide. It has no sign of, any sort of surrender to God, harmony with God. Even the sukkah that you sit in, right? Before you make it, there's no sign of being, which is not the case in Lulav and Etrog. Lulav and Etrog is made of 4 types, and we said this before, but let's just do it again. Here we go. I enjoy the fact that I actually succeed in doing this. Here we go. Usually I do something and it messes everything. Here we go. Lulav and Etrog. Does it work? Let's see. Here we go. Ready? There we go. Lulav and Etrog. Here it is. Here, see? Purchase your Lulav and Etrog. Here we have, this is the Etrog. Here we have the Lulav, that's a stick. Here we have Hadas. So let's see, make a bigger picture. Here we go. Oh, see, here we go. Here we got our Etrog. Here we have our Hadas. Here we have the Lulav. And here we have the Arava. All of these have already the nature of unity, unifying details. Details are important. For instance, this fruit lives on the tree the whole year. It unifies all the seasons of the year. There's the stick over here. The leaves are supposed to cover the stick, like here. They cover it's complete unity. This one shows it better. They cover over the stick totally, unity. Here, this is the lulav. This is the central branch of a palm tree. And these are really separate leaves, but look, they're all stuck together, so it looks like they're one. Here you can see they're sort of separated over here. And this is a willow tree. Is this a willow tree? Anyway, willow tree. And willow tree, if you look at it, it looks like one big mushroom. You see how it grows? It's like all grows one together. So all these 4 show on unity before you use them. Then when you use them, what do? You put them together, like here, we see we put them together. And that makes it stresses that there's different things, that each one is different, but and each one is necessary for the commandment, but nevertheless you unify these 4 different things and they become one. So it's like, e pluribus unum, the whole idea that from many becomes one. And that in a way is the whole essence of what Judaism is, that every detail of the world is godly and important, and it's all part of a big picture. So everything in the world, hidden inside of it, has the tendency to surrender to the Creator. Because everything that exists doesn't exist on its own. We don't see that. We only see the outside of it. But really, everything is being created. How this is, who knows? But that's the fact. So everything in the world, that's what Moshiach is going to show. That everything in the world has this tendency for unity. And that's stressed more by Lulav and Etrog than anything else. So let's get to this. So I would jump the gun, sort of. Okay. Durach them, by means of this, was the actus, which the unification of details comes in a continuation from a unity which is above details. Where's the unity above details? The sukkah. The sukkah unites everything that goes into it without any details whatsoever. Going inside of the sukkah, it makes no difference if you're smart, if you're stupid, if you're a Jew, if you're a non-Jew. An animal, doesn't make any difference. Everything that goes into the sukkah becomes part of the unity of the sukkah. The unity of the sukkah without doesn't make any. It negates all differences, which is not the case. Lulav and etrog. Lulav and etrog stresses the differences, stresses the harmony, the importance of differences to God. So it says, first of all, the first thing we do in the holiday is we sit in the sukkah. In the sukkah, that shows on God's unity, which is above all details. God creates everything. That's all. Everything exists. How does it exist? God creates it. Feeling that it's God creating, that's what's like the sukkah. Und thus, that's which the unity comes in all the details. This is not because of the fact was hat nit me'ir gewen achdus. It's not because the oneness of God is missing. Why is the separation? Because you don't feel the oneness of God. No. The idea of the lulav and etrog is that there's not lacking any big revelation of God, and therefore you feel all the details. But rather, mitzad them, because of the details themselves, they express God's oneness. Their gilui, the revelation, an oistrik, an expression of the true unity. Now, this is a very important point in Judaism, and really the message the Moshiach wants to bring to the world. All the other religions, at least that I know of, they talk about going to heaven. Heaven is the goal. Heaven is the goal. You die. How long are you going to live in this world? How long? 100 years. How long are you going to be in heaven? Infinite. Infinite. It's worthwhile to be in this false, terrible world for 100 years and do the right thing. Then you're going to go into heaven for infinite. Judaism says, no, that's not the point. That's not the point at all. The point is this physical world. This physical world is where you can ask a question: what's this physical world? There's cats and dogs and money. That's more important than going to heaven. It says, yeah, going to heaven, that's something like the sukkah. The sukkah is just pure God's oneness. There's no difference. You're just basking in God's oneness. You forget about who you are or what you were, whatever you lulav and etrog. That's stressing that God wants every single detail to be exactly the way it is, but connected to Him. Connected to the truth. It's something like they had, and there were these stories about the mad scientist. You got the mad scientist, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, whatever the mindset. God wants there to be scientists. He wants you to be a scientist, but He wants scientists to be used for good purposes, to be connected to God, the creator, and not to be a mad scientist and to be connected to the destruction. So the world is good, but it just has to be pointed in the right direction, that the world shouldn't be like a mad scientist. The world, all the details are good. And that's what the lulav and etrog shows, and that's what Moshiach is going to show. We're going to get to it in a second. Here we go. What we can say, let's make this a little bigger. We can say, as this is also from the Talmud, one of the reasons was the mitzvahs, was the commandments, and taking the four types of, these four types we have over here, right? The lulav and the etrog, the lulav, that's the lulav, and the etrog, and the hadas and the arava. Why taking these four types? The til's meaning is you take this, according to some opinions, you should, the first, you should take the lulav and etrog first thing in the morning, and you make a blessing on it in the sukkah. That's the custom of Chabad. There's a lot of others that have a custom. All the customs you should know in Judaism, we're talking about genuine Judaism, they're all holy. So Ashkenazic Jews have their customs, and Sephardic Jews have their customs, and Yemenite Jews have their customs. Each one's have their own custom. The customs are holy. I mean, they're all based on great rabbis. So we have our custom in Chabad that we take the lulav and etrog first thing in the morning, and we make a blessing on it. Really not the first thing in the morning. We go to the mikveh first. Anyway, we make a blessing on the sukkah. We make a blessing on the lulav and etrog. In the sukkah. Why? Because the sukkah, we say, is a surrounding level that negates all details And the lulav and etrog is expressing the importance of the details. This, in a way, is a higher level of godliness that can bear all details. And not just can bear all details, but is expressed explicitly in the details. The details are tremendously important. Durch dem, was dies achtus, by means of the unification of the details of taking the four types, kumt behemshech, comes in a continuation of the unity of the sukkah. The sukkah negates all differences. Everything is one, oneness of God. God is one, wonderful. That's the sukkah. But after that comes even something which is more wonderful, and that is that the details are important to the essence of God, even higher than the aspect of sukkah. This brings in a revealed way, as the shorish from esachtus pratim, that unification of all details. That's a higher level of unity, right? The job of the Jewish people is to reveal that God is one. When we say God is one, we don't mean that there's just one God. It means that all existence is being created by God. It all depends totally. Everything in the world depends totally on its existence, on its very existence, to God. But that doesn't mean that everything is worthless. Everything is nothing. Everything is a big illusion. It's just made from nothing, so it's nothing. Right? That's like the message of the sukkah. The message of lulav and estrog is if God is bringing everything from nothing to something, then that something must be very important to God. God is making it that way. God is not creating the world because the world is this big maze or this big, how do you say, the tunnels of confusion you have to get out of, right? See? What do they used to have? These things, not crossword puzzles. As a maze, it was called. Anyway, you have to find the way out, so it's called a maze. The world is not that the guy just sits up there and he watches us running around like little rats in a trap or something. If we can find a way out, that's not so, right? And then we have to go to the world to come. That's the most important thing. The world to come, for sure. Heaven is certainly good. It's certainly wonderful as everybody says it is. Judaism says that heaven is thousands of times better than all the religions possibly can imagine. It says heaven's everywhere. But in heavens, we get pleasure. In this physical world, by using it properly, God gets pleasure. God gets pleasure from the details. That's the message of Sukkah. Now, so according to this, that the unity of the Sukkah is higher than any details. It's higher than the details, even the differences between spiritual and physical. That's the Sukkah. Was therefore, it brings a holiness also in the physical Sukkah, the wood of the Sukkah, etc. So now we can understand the Sukkah. The Sukkah, when you're using it in the holiday, it's holy. Physical Sukkah. You're not allowed to use the walls as a sliver, whatever, to clean your teeth or something. You can't use it for any mundane purposes. And how much more so the schach. Now we can understand, then beer, the understanding, what is the holiness of the holiday of Sukkah. The Kedusha from Yeder, the holiness from every day, every holiday. Kumt mitzad comes from the revelations, was Zayin and Meir, which shine in that holiday. This requires an explanation. Because as the Gilu in the revelation of the holiday of Sukkot, why do we celebrate Sukkot? Because 40 years we were in the desert, God surrounded us with clouds. Zayin and Bechinas Makif. This is a surrounding level. Is ta vi poiled zeh. How does it have an effect in them tug the day from Sukkah? Was mitzad atzmo, is there a yom chol, which is a regular day, that it should be holy? What's the Sukkah? The Sukkah is something that surrounds us. It's outside of us, it's like the clouds that surrounded the Jews. But when the Jews were surrounded by the clouds in the desert, the clouds did not have an effect on them personally, unless maybe they thought about it, right? One said to the other, you ever thought about that, Shlomo? Why is it that nobody ever gets bitten by a snake or a scorpion? Or maybe when we're wandering around over here for 40 years, nobody got bitten by a snake. Yeah, I sort of thought about that, but it's not really important. I mean, no, the reason is because there's these clouds of glory that surround us. Ooh, I forgot about it. So the clouds didn't really have an inner effect on the Jews that they went about their day to day. And now the sukkah is in the place of these clouds. So how can the sukkah, yes, have an effect on us internally, on our emotions? The clouds themselves didn't have an effect. They didn't affect the personalities of the Jews. How can the sukkah, yes, have that effect? We can explain it is because the Geluyim, the revelation of the holiday of Sukkah, are higher than any details, and even higher than the details between spiritual and physical. The Sukkah, the Rebbe, therefore, Paul say Kedusha, therefore they can bring holiness also in the time of Sukkot. Because Sukkah represents an aspect of God which is higher than spiritual or physical. So therefore, it's not, how do you say, difficult to say that the physical could also feel spiritual. But dogmas like, for instance, they have holiness in the sukkah. If the sukkah is really a level of godliness which is above spiritual, there's no differences. So there's no difference between physical and spiritual. So if so, there's no reason why the physical can't experience the spiritual. So therefore, the walls of the sukkah, they become holy. They become spiritual. The walls become holy. Physical walls become. What does it mean, holy? They become spiritual. You feel some spirituality in the walls of the sukkah. When he goes, because that the time from sukkah is spirit externally, it's similar to all of the days of the rest of the year, right? On Sukkot, the days aren't longer, or there's a little light shining, or something like that, or everybody walks around with a halo on their head. No. the days of Sukkot are just like every day of the year, right? A person that wakes up from a sleep, he can't tell, oh, it's Sukkot today. Why didn't you tell me? He has no idea. You have to look at a calendar. You have to see where you are. Not like the physical sukkah. The physical sukkah, you can see there's something unusual over there. Which this physical sukkah, this surrounds a person. You can see you're sitting in a sukkah. Okay, so we have the lulav and the etrog where you can see the details. You have the physical sukkah, which there are no details, but you can see that it's holy. And then you have the days of Sukkot, which the days of Sukkot, you can't tell that they're holy at all. It's just like every day, but they are holy. Oh, so now we're going to see. It's like 3 levels of holiness. Was oich bagashim is also physically the sukkah. We can see that you're sitting in a sukkah and it surrounds you, especially after you made the sukkah. You did it for the name of the commandment of Sukkot. Right? If it happens to be that in your backyard that there's a little booth and there fell leaves on top of it, right? It didn't have a ceiling on it. A booth and there fell leaves and branches on top of it. So that doesn't make a sukkah. You have to lift the leaves up and say, I'm doing this for the sake of the commandment of sukkah. Even more, if a non-Jew makes your sukkah for you and puts the schach on the top of it, you can't sit in it. You have to at least lift up the branches and, right, you have to lift them up, let's say, I don't know, what is it, half of a foot or something, a foot, and then let them back down. You have to put them for the name of sukkah. So it comes out like this. As in them was oich the zman, that the time of Sukkot becomes holy, the holiness of the holiday. Kum tsum oisliket is expressed in the revelation of the Sukkah, was zei zainen nit mugbo, which is not limited in spiritual or physical, nor nochmer vi in zer pu'ula, and then in the effect of the physical sukkah. Okay, so what happens? When you sit in a sukkah, the sukkah becomes holy, but you don't see that it becomes holy. You don't see that it becomes holy, but it is. The sukkah is holy, and you can see it's a commandment. What about the days of the holiday? Well, the days of the holiday, because the sukkah itself is above spiritual, and it's above physical, and it's above time, it's above space. So being above doesn't mean that it's limited to being outside of these things, that it's like the doors are closed to the spirituality of the sukkah, that it can't come into time and space. No, it's something like you have in geometry, you have a cube. So within a cube, there's an infinite number of planes, and you can divide the cube infinite number of planes because a plane has no thickness, and a plane has an infinite number of lines, and a line has an infinite number of points. So the points are within the cube. It's something like the same type of a thing. The holiness of the sukkah, that's like the cube. It encompasses everything inside of it. So it makes the planes and the lines, etc., makes them also holy. Makes them also. So therefore, it affects even time. The holiness of the sukkah, therefore, has an effect on everything which is inside of it, including the time of the holiday, the days. Nevertheless, the balt as the kedusha, because the holiness of the schach and the walls and afilu, the time of Sukkot, is oif getan, is done because of the revelation of the sukkah. You did something, unit mitzaratzman, but not in themselves. Right? Time itself has no indication that it could be holy. The sukkah itself, the walls and the tree, they have no indication that it could be holy before you use it. Is based as or it comes out as oich bechinas achdus, the unity of the sukkah is limited to being above any division. And sukkah is only holy when you use it. The time of Sukkot is only holy when you realize that it's the time, right? There's no indication of time before the holiday of Sukkot that it's holy. Only the holiday of Sukkot and the sukkah that makes you realize that that God is creating everything. Okay, but you can't. It's so to speak a holiness which is limited. It's limited to the certain time and a certain place. The holiday of Sukkot and the place where the sukkah is. Is nor, but there is just the fact that this draws down this unity, which is above any division. It hasn't got any limitation, so it can be drawn into everything. That's the sukkah. It can be found everywhere, but only when you use it. The unity of the four types, the lulav and etrog, vibalt, because as the achdus, that the unity which is in them is not only because of doing the commandment, nor oich freer, but even before you use them for the commandment. The lulav and the etrog, the hadas, and the arava already showed signs of unity before you ever used them. That was their nature. Thus, this means, as the pratim, the details of lulav and etrog, their unity, their sign of the oneness of God, is not because was in them is drawn something additional, the oneness of the holiday which is in them, but rather the lulav and etrog, they themselves already showed a sign of unity, of godliness, of surrender to God. So this comes out, this is true unity. What does it mean, true unity? That the world itself is ready for God to be revealed in the world. You might think God is revealed in the world, then there's going to be the rapture, the pepture, whatever it is, everything's going to be different. Everybody will be floating and their eyes will be glowing and everybody's going to be happy and the evil will be destroyed. It's not so. It's not so. The world, says the Rebbe, is already godly, but it's just hidden. It's something like the lulav and the etrog, and there are already signs of unity in them before you ever use them for holiness. As soon as you use them, then that just brings it out. That's the main thing of Judaism. Alpia now, according to this, according to what we said, so now we can understand the connection between the honoring the holiday to building the Holy Temple. Right? That's how we started off this whole speech. That it says in the Midrash that the Jewish people by honoring the holiday of Sukkot, not doing work in the holiday of Sukkot, and by taking the 4 types, as they merit to, correspondingly, the Holy Temple and the name of the Mashiach. Okay, so a little bit we didn't explain why the name of the Mashiach. We'll explain that in a second. But a little bit we understood why it is that specifically in the 4 types of Lulov and Etrog, that indicates Mashiach. When the Jewish people use it, Mashiach, because Mashiach will reveal how holy everything in the world can be. The details of everything in the world, starting with every human being. Every human being has already implanted in it a surrender to the Creator, that everyone can stop being a mad scientist, to use the powers that we have instead of selfishness, to use it, the powers we have to be good and to reveal everything in the world has this. But that's Lulav and Etrog. Okay. That a little bit shows about Mashiach. That's what Mashiach will do. Why name of Mashiach, we'll find out. Okay. But honoring the holiday, that's what's going to bring the building of the Holy Temple. But it doesn't say sitting in the sukkah will bring the Holy Temple. Und das, in them time, this reason, das wird der Grechend, this will be reached only by means of the resting of the holiday, the honoring of the holiday, and not by the means of sitting in the sukkah. The Holy Temple will be revealed not because you sit in the sukkah, even though the Holy Temple is called sukkah, b'shalom sukkah. The Holy Temple is a building, just like the sukkah is. Sitting in the sukkah will bring the Holy Temple, right? Wrong. It says what's going to bring the Holy Temple is honoring the holiday. And also the connection to the taking of the 4 types, the Lulav, to the name of the Mashiach. The oiftu, the whole result of the building of the Holy Temple is as the Gilui, the Tochen from Beit HaMikdash, the revelation and the whole content of what is the Holy Temple, which that's called Keseh Kavod Morom L'Rishon, which is called the throne of glory for the first one. Remember, that's what we said, because it says first one. This will be drawn and revealed in Makom Miktashenu, in a place of holiness. That's why Jews, even now, we pray in the direction of the Holy Temple, even though there is none. God is everywhere. Why in the Holy Temple? Because the place of the Holy Temple is a place in the world. Chol, a mundane thing on its own. And therefore, Vertis de Grechen, you can reach, this can be accomplished by revealing godliness in a physical place, mainly by means of B'yom Rishon Mikra Kodesh, by means of sanctifying time, the time of Sukkot. Was oich di anani kavod, because also the clouds of glory, which that's why we celebrate the holiday of Sukkot, which are above, poilin nit nor oif the atse binyan sukkah. They don't have an effect on the actual wood of the sukkah, nor oich in them zman, because what happened when the clouds of glory surrounded the Jewish people? They surrounded the Jewish people for 40 years. They made the time that they were in the desert, they made the time holy. And we celebrate that in only 7 days of the year. Back then they were in the that's one of the reasons the Jews didn't want to leave the desert. Right? The whole story that the Jews refused to leave the desert because they were holy. They were surrounded by these clouds of glory, and they were holy. They felt holy all the time. All the time. But now what we have to do is draw godliness into a specific time. Back then, they didn't feel that it was holiness being drawn into time. They were just living in a constantly holy world. They were surrounded, like living in a sukkah all the time. Erzalverin regal, but now we honor the holiday of Sukkot to show that this holiday is time like every other time, and time is a very mundane thing. And suddenly we make the time was Erishovis, which he rests, he stops working, he honors the weekdays, the regular days. And suddenly the weekdays, regular days of the year, they become holy. They become Rishon, is revealed the first one. like it says, Kol Melechat Avodah Lo Tasu. This is called Mikra. Mikra Kodesh is we call holiness into regular mundane days. It's something like the Sukkah, but even more. The Sukkah, you take regular boards and regular things, and you use them for holiness. Here we're taking regular days, regular hours, regular minutes, and we're making those regular days and regular hours, regular minutes of the 7 days of Sukkah. It's 8 days, I guess, outside of Israel, it's 9 days. We make it holy. Time becomes holy. Nevertheless, is oir di pu'ula, or if the makom miktashenu, that's the same thing as the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple was taking a regular physical place. This is only because, but the Holy Temple was only because of the revelation, 1 minute, from above. That's the throne of glory, which is drawn down into the place. So by means of honoring the holiday, we take physical time and make it holy. That's the same thing as the Holy Temple did. It took a physical place and it made it holy. So therefore, by honoring the holiday and making mundane days holy, we merit to the Holy Temple, which makes also a mundane place holy. But this holiness, nevertheless, still is above the world. It still is above normal. 1 second. It still is above normal. It still is above the world, which is not the case, the name of the Mashiach. What's the name of the Mashiach? The name of the Mashiach, it says, is Menachem, which, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that's the name of the Lubavitcher Rebbe also. As Werd bringen, he will bring Nachmo, he will bring a comfort and explain the whole exile. How can he possibly do this? As Vet nit nor, he won't only bring revelation above the world into the world, like the Holy Temple did, like honoring the holiday of Sukkot does. It brings something above nature into nature, but it doesn't change nature. It doesn't change, it makes nature, I'm sorry, it doesn't explain nature. It doesn't make nature holy. It puts something new into nature, right? It forces nature, so to speak, to be holy. That's what the Holy Temple does. But Mashiach, he's going to explain all of the pain and suffering of the exile. He will reveal the inside thing of the exile. He'll show, just like Lulov and Etrog, the 4 types were already ready to be used before you use them. You look at a regular Lulov, a regular earth, you can't see that there's anything holy in it. But the fact is, if you think about it for a second, you realize that all these 4 types, the Lulav and the Etrog and the Hadas, they all had qualities of unity. They were all ready to be revealed godliness. That's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach will reveal that all of the pain and the suffering of the Jews in the past was really good. It was there waiting to be revealed, just like Lulav and Etrog. It was just waiting to reveal the oneness of God there. How it is that the exile itself was really good. Vivivet Zogan, like we say, Odecha, I will praise you, God, ki enough to be, because you made me suffer. It's another sentence. Where is it? Isaiah. I will praise you, God, because you tortured me. Huh? How this is possible, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, how are you going to possibly explain the pain and the suffering of the Holocaust? And the Holocaust is just terrible to us because it's so close and there's pictures, etc. And everybody knows somebody, right, who's at least father or grandfather died or suffered in the Holocaust, right? But the fact is the destruction that was in the first temple and the second temple was even worse. A bigger portion of the Jewish people were killed, and all the Jewish people felt it immediately, right? And somehow the Mashiach is going to explain this. It'll make sense that it really was good. And says the Rebbe, yeah, it's the same thing like Lulav and Etrog. It was just waiting there. The Lulav and Etrog, they were already just waiting there that their oneness should be revealed. There are already qualities of oneness in them. Und das this will be revealed not by means of the happiness on its own, and the holiday of Sukkot, nor via verbunden, how it's connected to taking the four types. The four types, these Lulav, Etrog, and Hadas, because their whole thing is even the things of the world, the Lulav and Etrog, etc., before you use them for holiness, they were just waiting to be used. They were already ready. The things of the world themselves, they are already vessels and they are prepared to receive the oneness of godliness. So that's why Lulav and Etrog especially will bring Mashiach, because Mashiach will make sense of all the pain and suffering and confusion of the thousands of years of exile that we've already been in. Something like taking the Lulav and Etrog and showing that really was always waiting to be used for the commandment, that already had tendencies in it for the commandment. And the holy temple, which is a holy place, makes a regular place, that'll be meant by us honoring the holiday, taking regular days and making them holy. The point is Mashiach has to come any moment. The world is ready any second for it to happen, and it's going to be an immense change, but the world is waiting for it. The world is ready for it. It's not going to be a total surprise. It's the total surprise is that it took so long, right? It took so long to happen. But when it does happen, it'll be like, oh, finally. Any second now. Any second now. The Rebbe said one of the ways of doing it is by giving charity, by learning Torah, and also saying, long live the king, that the Rebbe is the king. Long live King Mashiach. Okay. Somebody has to be Mashiach, for sure, right? And there's Rebbe has the qualification, so if you find somebody better, go for it. But I haven't as yet. I'm not looking also. Let's go to what are we doing now? Yom Yom.